There we go, Dr. Montgomery.
All right. Doctor,
Doctor,
Doctor.
doctor,
doctor,
doctor.
doctor. Well, welcome. I just want to say hello to everyone. I am Dr. Montgomery, and I'm joined here by Dr. Kwanza Falaka and Dr. Nia. So, welcome to the Doctor podcast. Today, we're here together and discuss a topic related to, well, actually, we're coming together often to discuss topics related to health, humanity, and healing. But today's topic is all about community and the importance of creating community. Sorry about that. To just begin, what I would like to do is just give some context behind the word community and give you a brief definition, just so you can have an understanding of where we are and where we're building from. And so, if I was to define community, I would like to say that a community is a group of individuals who share common interests, values, and goals, and who interact with one another in a meaningful way. This can be a neighborhood, a workplace, online groups, or any gathering of people who support each other. Communities can be formed around shared hobbies, cultural backgrounds, or even challenges that we all may face in our own personal lives. Today, earlier today, if I can share, I have a good girlfriend. I'm just going to call her M, and M has this interesting way of bringing people together. She's my friend, but she often kind of hosts events. And in those events, what she enjoy doing is bringing together all of her friends. This is something that she does, and she has a natural gift of doing that. Me being an introvert, a loner, I don't really get out much, especially with large groups of people. And this is why this topic is so really good and dear to my heart, simply because of the challenge that I had to put before myself in terms of understanding community, building community, and being a part of a community. And as I was going to my event today, I was just thinking, like, wow, I never really realized that. But she always do this, and she's always bridging people together. Her friends, these are her friends, but they became my friends because of her, not because I went out and I met these group of people, but I met these group of people through various different events she may hold. And what I really love about is that she's very specific on how she like cultivate these relationships. She has a lot of friends and she know a lot of different people. And each time that I attend one of her events, I'm meeting someone new. And so when you're thinking of community, this is what we're talking about. Just the idea of being intentional about doing the things that you're doing and getting out there and meeting other people. Dr. Kwanzaa, you want to
Yeah.
share with us?
Well, I think I'm kind of like an introvert extrovert, so I can kind of get with this or get with that. But I do like I love this topic too because I think community is so important. And what is that quote? Is a quote that's kind of like this has put me in mind is if you don't see the thing created, it's a little deeper than that, but essentially that's what it is. Like if you don't see the thing, whatever that thing is, created. And so for me, community is something like that. Um, I remember this was years ago. Well, first I'll say this. I think as you get older, I don't know, and I would love for us to talk a little bit more about this. Is it more difficult to create community as you get older? And I'll share this story, which is kind of why my mind is thinking in terms of age. But I remember years ago, I was at a restaurant picking up some takeout, and there was this older woman. So there was a nursing home across from this particular shopping center. And occasionally the bus would drive the residents over to the shopping center so they can do shopping or, go to the grocery store or whatever they want to do. But along with the grocery store, there's also this restaurant, Chinese restaurant in this shopping center. And so I pop in there to pick up some takeout, and there's this older woman, and she's just kind of sitting there. So I order my food and I sit down, and I'm like, how are you today? And she says, oh, nobody's asked me that in a really long time. And I was like, well, I'm going to do you one better. I really want to know, how are you today? And so, she sat there and she just kind of talked to me while we both waited on our food, our order to, finish. And she shared a lot about her life. She shared about, how long she had been living in a facility across the street. She shared about her husband who had recently passed and just her life. And just within those quick, maybe 10, 15 minutes, like she had an opportunity to just share on a level that she hadn't had an opportunity to share before. And I wondered that even though she's living in this community, right, this facility where there are people who are in her age group, her peers, just to have somebody not necessarily in that age group to actually ask her how she's doing and, really be interested in having a conversation. I thought it was really beautiful, but it put me in a mindset of, is it more difficult to, I guess, be in community as you get older? And maybe that will come out of the conversation, or maybe it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's predicated upon time or age, but just understanding the importance of community. And when I thought about, us having this conversation, I thought about, most of us are familiar with the Surgeon General's, I guess the report that he did, I think it was in 2003, where they talked about, it was a report about the loneliness epidemic. And I just wanted to share a couple of statistics from that report. If I can grab it off my computer. But I just wanted to share a couple of statistics from that report. And let me see. So the report, the full name of the report is the Surgeon General's, or the U.S. Surgeon General's Advisory on the Healing Effects of Social Connection and Community. Mm-hmm. And some of the statistics that came out of that, or some of the takeaways that came out of that, was one, it said the loneliness epidemic is hitting young people ages 15 to 24 especially hard. I thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. It also noted that approximately half of U.S. adults report experiencing loneliness, with some of the highest rates among young adults. So this may kind of, fly in the face of my theory about older people. But then loneliness increases the risk of premature death by nearly 30%. And in 2018, only 16% of Americans reported that they felt very attached to their local community. So that's only 16% of Americans who felt that they were attached to their local communities. That's interesting. And then a final statistic I'll share, it says 50% of adults in the U.S. reported being lonely in recent years. So 50% of adults. So those numbers are kind of alarming, I think, mm-hmm. and a bit staggering. That 16% not feeling connected, that 50%, feeling lonely, or 16% only feeling connected, and 50% feeling lonely. Those are some interesting statistics, and I'm sure they'll play a part in the conversation that we'll have in this space. But yeah, what do you guys think about that?
So I remember, I don't know what I was looking at, but I think it was like a couple years ago. Me and my friends, we like went out on like a Wednesday or whatever. And like, oh, this is so cool. And my friend ended up telling me, like, and I think in Europe, like it's a little bit more common that people actually like hang out on weekdays. But like, I guess just because of the culture that we have in the US, it's like very like the weekend is like the only time to really connect and stuff.
Right.
But I don't know, when you were talking about those numbers, it just kind of made me think about like just how the culture is here, and like, I don't know, like almost the emphasis that we put on kind of building that community. And even with the age information that you were kind of saying, I'm wondering if there are like just generational shifts that we're kind of seeing, because, I wish I remember what I was reading. Oh man. But I know I had something the other day where I was kind of even just talking about the fact that our community can be so expansive now, and we don't really have like friends like in our community, but our friends can like stretch, states across, even in different countries and stuff like that. Sometimes that's a little harder for people as far as making community. So like, generations back, it was like your community was your community because that's all you really had. So it was like, there wasn't as many options. But I think like the fact that we have so much selections of like who we want to be involved with, kind of, I guess, maybe even produces some type of like decision fatigue. So people aren't really connecting as deeply, or they feel like they might be someone better to connect with or something like that. So I wonder how that kind of like plays into what we're seeing with people feeling a little bit more lonely, especially like the younger generations and whatnot. But those are just some like the thoughts that came to mind when you were like talking about those statistics. Is just like,
Yeah.
I wonder if like the question is kind of true that maybe some of our older adults are feeling lonely because, their community is like, getting further away from them, but also because of just how society has changed, younger adults also still experiencing that maybe in a way that those older adults didn't experience when they were young. But yeah.
That is fascinating. Dr. Montgomery, you were about to say something. I'm going to try to hold my thought. But
I know. And I was like, oh my God, every time Dr. Nia says something, I'm like,
yeah.
Like, right. So what I find extremely interesting on both your points, right? So you can take it from the perspective of, for an older generation, is it harder to build community because, and even for the younger, generation, is it, we can ask that same question, because Dr. Kwanzaa, if we think about it, right, the way you and I grew up in our way, as Dr. Nia was saying, building community was very different, was very hands-on, very
Yeah.
up close and personal. And to have that community, we had to actually be in each other's presence. I mean, if I did something, Miss Drake gonna get on my case.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
That was community. Yeah.
no, you come over here, and so she's gonna talk directly to me, or and so the neighborhood was the community.
Yeah.
The people you went to the playground with, or who you met up with at the playground, was your community. Whereas with Nia's generation, and Nia's like right on the cusp of that, like
Yeah.
infancy in that, right? And my son he's all the way immersed in it,
Right.
right? And so looking at community from his perspective is, what are you talking about? I am outside.
Right.
Literally, right? He's probably in Japan somewhere, sitting on the couch, right? And taking that perspective and trying to have that mindset. You need to go outside. You need to go. No, but then when we look at a generation and start wondering, why do everyone seem so individualized and so
Right.
distracted or so isolated and hurting so much? And depression is at an all-time high, or anxiety is at an all-time high. And then being in the presence of another person is like, what am I supposed to do? Or what am I supposed to talk about? We're in each other's presence and doing this. Well,
Right.
that would probably be Dr. Nia's generation, and so the whole concept of community, what exactly is that, and what does that look like? Because the language have changed on that, and how it looks. It kind of looks different now with it being in a digital generation, or a digital.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I was literally thinking similarly, Dr. Montgomery, that the idea of community is different, across the generations. And maybe because from our generation, the idea of community, and I think all of us are kind of on that, on that teeter between two different generations, oddly enough, because we're of the generation that community was community. Like you said, you walk out the door, that was community. That's what it was. But then we also appreciate the idea of community and creating community, right? So you have, what are those things like meetups and, the different group things that you can create, and you're coming in contact with people who share similar interests. So the idea of community has changed. And I wonder, even thinking about the Surgeon General's, his report, I wonder if they defined community, or if they allowed the participants to define community. Because to your point, Dr. Montgomery, when you said that your son, like, no, it's like, what are you talking about? I am in community, right? I'm on this game with other people who enjoy the same game, and we're community. We are engaged. But maybe it's the idea of what community is. Maybe that's what shifts, or is shifting, or even changed, which leaves people feeling like, lonelier, because they're not able to create the idea of community that they have, right?
Right. So, and so without going into my dissertation, but to tap into my dissertation a little, right? Robert Putnam, right? He's the author of Bowling Alone, and I used him in my dissertation. So when you're thinking about community and how he defined community, and I'm thinking in terms again of this generation, right?
Right.
Social capital is a real thing, right? So how I am connecting and interacting with my social network, right, determines, my relevance in terms of that community. So when I'm thinking social capital, so if I don't have Instagram or TikTok or what's those fancy things that they use, and there's something wrong, like I'm missing out on something, right? I'm not a part of, and I don't know what's happening. So it's really important for me to be able to capitalize on these things, and having that brings me into community, gives me capital, gives me name, gives me notoriety, and all these different things. And so again, without trying to go too much into my dissertation, but that social capital thing, it has language. It has big language that really sits in the heart of discussing community and being a part of a community and how you connect with that community.
I love that.
Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam, Putnam.
I was going to think too. I don't know. I heard this one thing, and I wish I had my references. So I'm so sorry, but it made me kind of think, especially kind of like talking about like the how Instagram and TikTok, and that kind of helps you to feel connected. But that's a very like large community,
right?
And it probably does miss some of that more. What is it, like natural things that like like again humans probably need, like what we actually need in this community. So of course there is like that social capital like aspect, but and you correct me if I'm wrong, or if you could kind of elaborate on it more, but I imagine with social capital too, it's like the idea is that as I build this up, that means I can kind of get things or influence, and I have like something in my community that I can kind of sway. But of course in this kind of like artificially large community that is like a social media, that capital doesn't really account to, or like very few people will get capital that is worth something in like the social media sphere. And even
yes and no, right? So I mean, because it's easy to think of the word social capital as that whole concept of I'm gaining some, I have so much more, but it's status. So using this context is almost in terms of thinking as well as my status.
Yeah.
Right? It gives me identity. It gives me relevance. It gives me a place, right? The reason why I actually chose my topic, right? Digital immigrants. That would be myself and Dr. Kwanza, raising digital natives, which would be my son, and the social emotional behavioral impact that it has on the individual, right? So looking at my son, he was about 7, no, not 7, maybe 10. He was 10, 9. We were in the pandemic, and this is at the time when Fortnite was really huge, right? It's still kind of okay, but it was really huge at this point. And there was a rapper who was having a concert, and the concert was being held on Fortnite. But in order to be a part of that concert or get into that concert, you had to do some kind of contest or whatever. Well, my son, I didn't know at the time that's what he was trying to do. And when he went to check his status to see if he made it in, he didn't.
Yeah.
I say he had the biggest emotional breakdown that I could imagine, like of his life. He had it right there in my house. And it broke me. I'm crying with him, trying to soothe him and trying to get him to understand it's just a video game. And my language to say it's just a video game was the worst thing to say, because it wasn't a video game. It was status. It was getting in. It gave him something, and it broke him to the point where that night I got on that game and I would not give up until we were able to do whatever we needed to do to get him to enter into that game. The next day, his name was broadcast and he won and he got into the concert. So we had a big old, it was a Zoom game time, and his cousins and everybody got a chance to watch him in this game, play on Fortnite and be a part of this concert with Travis Scott, whatever his name is, Travis somebody.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, but I was like, oh, maybe she's not saying it on purpose.
No, I couldn't remember. You remember it?
Yeah, I remember you. I remember.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember the name, so it just popped. Right.
Yeah.
And getting in, it meant everything. And it was at that moment that I needed to understand this concept. I needed to understand why social media is such a big deal. Why are these kids, for lack of a better term, because the new term, crashing out? At that time, it wasn't crashing out. Why are they crashing out over these different things? Because he needed to be a part of this community. He wanted to be there. Not only that, it gave him status. And when I'm speaking in terms of social capital and community, it's status.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Nia, you were, using that same example or building off of that example. I can't think of anything in real life, right? And I won't say real life, but in the physical, I don't know what the right word is. Long ago days. Like I can't think of I can't think of anything that would have given me that same reaction. Right?
Yeah.
Concert?
Paper dolls.
But you still wouldn't have that, like you wouldn't like crash out because I can't,
Exactly.
So Dr. Nee, I would ask you, because you're a huge Beyonce fan, if I can share.
Yes.
You just went to the Cowboy Carter, right?
Technically, I'm going to accept the title. Like, I don't know why I am.
But you just went to the Cowboy Carter concert, right? And there was a process that you went through to get your tickets. Do you feel like if you weren't able to get the tickets, like, would that have been like a social fail? Like,
Good word. I like that, social fail, because she's at a different stage and level in age, right?
Right.
Social fail. I like that.
I guess that's a hard part because I don't think it's social for me.
Okay.
I guess that's
or
it.
Status?
Status? No, I don't think it's status, because I think like I think that's not my. I guess I consider myself Beehive, but it's not like I don't know. I don't know how to explain. I was just explaining it actually. So
what's a Beehive?
I think it's just I like Beyonce, and I like people who like Beyonce, and I can talk to them about Beyonce.
So isn't that community? Beehive? Are y'all a community?
They are probably a community, yeah. I think, yeah. But I don't think so. I guess I feel like for me, let me explain.
I love it.
I feel like there's different types of community, because I'm like at the Beehive. I absolutely love going to the concerts. I even like going to little meetups where we listen to Beyonce music. That's super fun. But then there's my community, and that's who I actually get my intimacy through, who I.
Okay, that's a good word.
And it's so for me, that's why I'm there's not that. With Beehive community, it is nice if I dress up and everyone's like, yes, your outfit. And I'm like, yes, thank you. But if I dressed up and nobody in the Beehive cared about my cute little Cowboy Carter outfit, I wouldn't feel like a social loss or social failure.
Okay.
But if I didn't show up for one of my friends who are in my friend group, I would probably feel social failure for that. Or if I, did something that was disappointing, or if I, felt guilty about something I did to a friend. So I guess I'm wondering if there's I don't know, a kind of different, different, I don't know if people feel like they're in community and they're grasping into almost a parasocial relationship, but with a community. So I have this parasocial relationship, but this community is mine. So the reason I'm saying I'm in Beehive, because I, again, really like being around the people, but I don't want to be too intense about it. It's just that it's not those are my people where it's if I'm feeling low, I know these people are going to lift me up. I don't think they will. I think they might gas me up and they would probably give me a little bit of love. And it's like, I love that. But like, if I really need something, I have like a different community that I can tap into. And that might not be the case for everyone. There might be people who the Beehive is their community that they,
Right.
and it's like, hey, I get online, I get on Reddit, and I go to that Beehive community. And if I'm going through something, I say something. But I think there's dangers in that because these are people who aren't necessarily there. Not everyone is. Some people, again, are going to be beautiful members of that community, but some people are going to be like, girl, you tripping. Like, why are you, you know what I mean? They might be a little mean because sometimes people can be meaner on the internet and whatnot.
Exactly.
So I wonder even with the situation is, but again, for that individual who the Beehive is their community, that's their community. So it's like, that's real to them, right? And
according to Tony's, right, he would call, I guess, in defining that, the way you just broke that down.
Yeah.
You have community and society.
Okay.
Right? So community, the word community, the definition of community, two different ways to view it. And it's the exact same way how you just broke that down. Like you have your small, close-knit interpersonals.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be your community. This is where you get, your all the different things that you need, the mutual bonds, the family closeness, considering certain people your friends or whatever. But then the society is looked at more or less like, okay, so these are people who share, who have like interests, like, so your beehives, right? Okay. So while it might not be up close and interpersonal, right? It's still a community of sort, is a society where we are a collective, like-minded individuals are coming together to enjoy and to participate, I would suppose, in something that we all have a common interest in. And we enjoy it. We have a good time. But here's my community. Here's my people. Here's the ones that I connect with, I love, I share intimate, interpersonal moments with. I think you did a really good job of explaining that. And it's TONNIES, Tony's, his definition, 1887. I can share that research a little bit.
But I think Dr. Nee, I like that too, Dr. Bridget, Dr. Montgomery. But Dr. Nee, I think you said a couple of things that ties into, I think, what Dr. Montgomery was saying as well, is like the community, you use the term parasocial relationships. I like that term because that's something like it's community still, but there's like when I thought about community, when you talk about your friends, there's the level of intimacy that's there. Where this other group may give you validation, but it's not really intimacy, right? And so if somebody at the Beyonce concert was like, girl, I love your outfit, that gives you like this dopamine spike, like, okay, But if somebody in your community, like where you have these closer personal relationships with, if they said something like, I don't like your outfit, then that would probably have like a more adverse effect on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't know. I think the community that we're thinking about is twofold. One is the personal and intimate relationships that you have. But then the second part, to Dr. Montgomery's point, are those social relationships where you have something like common likes or common things that you enjoy or something in common. But you talked about also what it looks like going to a Beyonce concert, but then also within that same community, finding a group of people that say, hey, we're going to meet at this park on this day at this time to listen to Beyonce's latest thing, right? And so y'all are out there with hundreds of people who in community want to hear, this Beyonce thing. So I think the idea of community is something to really be explored. And I would be curious to know the Surgeon General, like how they defined, and maybe I'll go back and look at the report, but I would be curious to know how they define community. Is it that close, intimate relationship, which is a whole different other thing when you talk about loneliness and isolation, right? Versus I have these interests, but I can't find anybody who else is interested in it. That's a different kind of loneliness and isolation. Like I love collecting butterflies, but I'm having a hard time in my community finding other people who like collecting butterflies. I won't feel that same level of loneliness and isolation that I would feel if I don't have people to be in close, intimate relationship with. You know what I'm saying? So it feels like just the idea of community. I would be curious to know how they define that and what other people think about when they think about community. I'm sorry, Dr. Nia.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. And I was wondering too, if you guys think this, is it possible for people, just as like Dr. Montgomery was kind of differentiating between community and society, is it possible for people to kind of conflate or confuse that I'm trying to get a community feel from society? And
Yes.
that's a weird, and maybe that's why you kind of have this emptiness, because it's like,
I think that's a great segue into that mental health piece.
Yes. That was hit right on the head.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just kind of, I think the intersection or the cross between and, you know, not really understanding that community, the interpersonal, the up close, these are my people, versus the societal concept or perspective of community. And I'm just, I'm in a group of individuals who have like interests, and we're sharing and we're having a good time, but I still feel alone and I still feel empty. And why don't mine look like? And right. And I think that definitely plays on the mind, the heart and the mind.
Yeah.
I would think so. I mean, of course, it's a generalized thought or a subjective thought, because there's so many different people, and I myself haven't sat down and kind of did the research and crunched the numbers and looked at this aspect, but there's a lot of research that points to mental health and community, and how it can either enhance it or it can hurt it. And I think there's a difference between intentional stepping out there and building community, much like yourself, Dr. Nia. You're really good at that. You're a social bee, right? Not at the time, I wasn't speaking in that context, but just being social is sociable, right? And you have the energy and the heart of being able to do that and go out and build your interpersonal community. And then there are those who may look at that and like, I can't do it like that, and want and try to be or do or place themselves in spaces that it's just not a good fit for them, but because they want to be like, and it causes other issues and problems.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like we could have a part 2 on this conversation. But so if we would just settle on the idea of community, just based off of the definition that you gave at the top of the conversation, Dr. Montgomery, just looking at it in terms of that, people having close relationships, sharing likes, or I forget the exact definition. But whatever the definition you shared at the top. And I don't know, I'm getting an echo. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah, I have an echo. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
No, it's gone.
Okay.
Sorry.
I didn't hit my mute button for a second because I had a knock at the door.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what it was. And then I came back in. So maybe.
Okay, that probably was what it was.
When I unmuted. So I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. So just keeping in mind with that same definition that you shared at the top, and you could probably share it again as we go into some of the benefits of community, just to kind of tap onto what you were saying earlier about community having a benefit and also could be a negative. But what are some of the benefits of community that you guys think?
Well, just for me to get back to my news, let me just go back to the definition of community, just to kind of segue us into that. So, we gave a community is a group of individuals who share common interests, values, or goals, and who interact with one another in meaningful ways. This can be, as we already discussed, in neighborhoods or workplace or online, right? Or any gathering of people who support each other. Beehives, right? Something like that. Communities can be formed around shared hobbies, cultural backgrounds, or even challenges that we face. Just looking at, the importance of community, and some of the mental health benefits of that. Um, it, we can start with, just understanding like some, cognitive and emotional support, right? First, community, just having those ties can enhance our mental health in a lot of ways, just being able to be in close personal connection with someone. As we already talked about, various studies can show that individuals who have really good social connections can experience a lower rate of anxiety, right?
Mhm.
And depression. Um, and like for instance, like knowing that someone is there just to listen to you or to lend a helping hand can make a world of difference and make you
Mhm.
feel so much better. I know, I went through something very tragic almost 3 years ago, and it's one of those things where you go through something and you don't really know how to explain or to express that, and having a community of people just kind of wrap around you, even when you can't speak and can't talk, and they understand you enough just to allow you just to be in that space and work through whatever it is that you have to work through. But knowing that somebody is just there to listen and to help and to pull and
Mhm.
carry you through whenever you need is it. It means all the world, and it probably, in essence, maybe have saved my life. Communities provide the cognitive stimulation and some emotional resilience. Engaging in conversations, participating in group activities, and sharing any kind of experience can keep our minds sharp and our spirits high. So, like just crossing the bridge today and going meeting a group of women I've never met before. I just only knew no, two people that was at this event, but the woman that was sitting next to me, it was God that orchestrated that, and we were supposed to meet. The conversation that came out of our community gathering today was just phenomenal. So I just made a new friend today, and she'll be tuning in hopefully, soon, because I did share our podcast today. Some of the physical health benefits, right? Being a part of community can lead to better physical health. When you think about it, you're getting up, you're moving, you're doing,
Yeah.
you're going out, you're hanging out. You're not just sedentary and sitting in front of the TV and trying to find out what you got great binge watch. Because if I want to watch TV, I got to binge. So give me a whole 6, 7 seasons.
All 10 seasons.
I'm checking how many seasons because I need at least at a minimum 5 because
Oh gosh.
right, I got to get all the way through. So, the physical health benefits alone just get you up and out the house, get you moving, and get you in spaces that you really wouldn't ordinarily go on your own. So, research indicate that social connections are linked to lower risk of heart disease and improved immune function. Again, it
Yeah.
all works with that whole body movement. Stress, cortisol, right?
Yeah.
It does a whole lot of unnecessary stuff to your body. And as you age, you don't need the extra cortisol stress because your metabolism slows
Exactly.
down. When that happens, it's just, setting you up for a lot of other health problems that you just don't need this stress. It does a lot to you. So when we feel supported, our bodies will respond positively, reducing the stress related, inflammation, which is that cortisol, and promote some overall well-being. Let me see here. One more. I just want to talk about this one just real quick. Just the isolation part of it. Um, you know, we myself there's a difference between isolating and intentional alone time. Right, both of them are intentional in a way, right? So
Mhm.
isolation, something can happen. You pull yourself away. You're keeping yourself away from your community, your people, your chosen ones, and even your social groups that you enjoy, where things can happen and still make you smile and feel really good about life. You're sitting alone and you're filtering your own thoughts, those own negative thoughts, and nothing positive is coming back. That's isolation. That's being alone. That's
Mm.
yourself off. That's stepping away from the things that can do your mind and your body well. And that's what being with community, intentionally chose community. But then there's this thing called like alone time, being intentional about doing that. And we like to throw that in the
Self-care.
self-care. We like to
Yeah.
throw it in that realm, right? And that's a word that's used quite often. But when you're thinking about that alone time, there's different things that you're going to do as a therapist, as a mental health therapist. I hear a lot of problems all day long. Not only do I have my stuff and my family stuff, but then I go to work and I take on, my clients, and then being the head, the owner and founder of a mental behavioral health practice. So everybody in the practice. So I'm hearing and I'm
Right.
managing issues and problems all the time. And so I do intentional alone time. And this intentional alone time is for me to kind of sit with myself and to kind of let out the things that I don't want to hold, journaling and writing those things down. Sitting in my garden. I love sitting in my garden. I think my family and my friends are starting to get sick of me because every morning I'm taking pictures of
Your garden.
my beautiful. They're like, okay, we seen that yesterday. No, but you need to see what I just saw today, right? And
Exactly.
I'm having a conversation with my vegetables. So this is my personal time. I can literally sit on my front deck or my back deck, and people can be outside, but I feel encapsulated because I'm where I want to be intentionally, and it's
Exactly.
doing me good. So I just wanted to make the distinction between, community, coming together, isolating, being by yourself in a not so good intentional way, and setting some alone and personal time in a good, healthy way that's going to do your body some good, so that when you reconvene and come back to your community, you're in a space where you can actually engage back as well. So I think
Exactly.
I talked about the cognitive and emotional piece, the physical health advantage of being with community. And I think these are really important factors that we don't really think about, how it does our body good, or
Right.
our keep our mind sharp and strong, and also keep our heart, light and full, so that we can, be engaging and be present wherever we are. That would be
Exactly.
some mental health benefits I have.
Dr. Nia, I want to ask you, like, what are some ways that you think you can foster and build community? What kind of ways do you suggest? Or if you had something to add also to the benefits of community, but just kind of pulling into the other question as well.
Okay. And I'll add something and I'll try to answer that as well. When we like made this as like the topic of discussion, it kind of made me think of Eric Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. And
Hmm.
like the big ones when we think about like connecting with other people, relationship, we have like a phase when we're born, trust versus mistrust, which is like a really critical point where we need to like pretty much form a bond with our caregiver, because that helps us to kind of establish the trust that's going to kind of be our foundation of trust for like the most
Right.
of life. So like not really achieving that as an infant can have impact. At least there's evidence that that has impact on a person's development later on, and specifically has impact when we get to our intimacy versus isolation phase of psychosocial development. And that starts, I think, in like our 20s, and it's like 20s all the way to 40s. So this is
Oh,
really like
wow.
life. Erickson kind of says like when we should be like thinking about marriage, but I think it expounds upon that, because I think it's not just marriage, but also like our friendships, our relationship with our parents, our family, like really just starting to be a little bit more intentional about creating those intimate relationships, and like balancing it with like also making sure that we kind of like keep ourselves in our intimate relationships, and also making sure that we're not falling into that trap of isolation at that time of like I don't not really making connections during this period, or and I of course his theories are kind of talking about like more one-on-one relationships, but I imagine that that's kind of like the basis of community. And I would say that like I would definitely think that humans are kind of built for relationships. And because we are built for relationships, I think we're probably built for community as well. Like really making sure that we
Absolutely.
have spaces to be, to feel secure in. I know when we think about that trust versus mistrust, that's really when we're starting to create our attachment styles too. And one
Mm.
attachment styles, and I even think this for adults. I think other people do too. I don't think I'm certain I'm not the only psychologist who thinks this, but like the idea of like a secure attachment, sometimes we think about it with only children, like they have to have a secure attachment so they can go out in the world and explore. But I think as adults too, like having a secure attachment helps us to kind of feel confident to like explore other things. So whether that's a friend who, if I go out and I try to do something new and I follow that on my face, there's someone I can go back to who's kind of like, okay, well, like, hey, you can get them next time or something, or someone who just, but like
maybe next time, slugger.
You still got somebody who likes you. I know, like you haven't completely.
I love that
for something, but like I think it is important that we have those types of relationships for certain. And now to kind of answer the original question about like what are the strategies kind of making community or kind of making those new relationships. I've always heard, and I think I would definitely encourage it, is just what they always tell us, and that's because I'm again consuming millennial young Generation Z content online. And the thing is always like you should really kind of get out and like join clubs that are of interest.
Yeah.
So me and my friends were even just talking about that because as we age, of course, like we have our own interests and we kind of always come back to each other because that's like our easy place to be ourselves and stuff. But we still have the desire to continue to make new friends and especially friends who might be more similar social space as us, because even as some friends starts having children or first gets married and stuff, like we might have like kind of different distractions or starting a new job. So it's important that like, okay, even though my friend's over here starting her new job, I still need people to hang out with and talk to and kind of be in community with. So for us, a big thing has been just trying to like perhaps go out and like try new things. So one thing I've been trying to kind of push myself to do is like do some yoga classes in the community or something. I have a friend who's she's actually has a really nice online community. She does Twitch streaming, so she does video games, and she actually has like legitimate friends online who she hasn't met, but they are like her gamer friends. She does trust them, and like even when she can't talk to me about some things, it's like easier to talk to them because like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm just like the little online friends. Like, what does that mean? Like, but for her, it's like, no, those aren't my little online friends. Like, those are my legitimate friends. So, like, I think what I want to say as like a summary is that I truly believe community is like how you develop it is going to be unique to you. And I think I think Dr. Montgomery kind of alluded to that. It's like you can't really just look at someone else's life and say, oh, I just want to mimic what they did, and that's going to help me get community. But like really like digging into yourself and seeing what is it that you're interested in. So like, do I just love dancing? Because if I just love dancing, then maybe I should go out dancing. I don't always have to bring a friend, but I can just go to a place that I like, and maybe I'll find a group of community of people who also do that. Actually, one of my best friends, she does that. Like she's just likes dancing at this point. So she will go dancing by herself at a common like dance spot. And she has made friends or like kind of surface level friends from that.
Right.
They see each other all the time. And I think that's like just a cool thing is that you really can connect on your interest. And even like, I know this is my best friend's little friend's husband's little sister, but she like goes to raves and she makes friends from raves and they meet up beforehand and then go and stuff together. So I think there are like really unique ways that you can meet people. And I think people are doing that, but I definitely just encourage people to tap into their interests. Even like the Facebook groups, like I know you started following a friendship Facebook group, like are fun. Like, and like just be able to talk to people about like, I like these things. And the last thing I'll say too is I think it's called, oh no, I have my little book right next to me, so I'm gonna see if I can find it. But it's this concept that humans really like humans who like the same stuff as us. So like, I know. So people who are like, that's who we like the most. I think it's called, I just don't want to mess up the word because like if I mess it up, it's gonna sound like something completely different. And that's just not what I want to say. Oh no. I'll try to find the word later.
Okay.
Little notebook. But of course, I have two of them open and neither of them will show me what I want. But like that's also just like a fun concept, is just that like we do have this like one thing that is very true about humans is that we do, I guess it could be a bit egocentric. So it's fun when we're in community, people who have similar thoughts and ideas as us, because it is an easy launching point for discussion. So again, just something to kind of keep in mind that is a fun way to kind of just build relationship and stuff like that. And if I can find the term, I'll let you know. But
okay, no, I love that. I mean, you guys both, and for the interest of time, I'm just gonna ditto everything that you guys said. But I will share that I think Dr. Nia, you mentioned that really creating community for yourself, on the shared interests that you have. So I personally like on social media because it can be daunting and exhausting sometimes. So I try to curate my feed, the people I follow, the groups that I'm a part of. So probably 80% of like any social media feed that I get are from groups that I follow. I just started following, French bulldog moms. And so I've been having a lot of fun with that. So when I go on Facebook, that's like, the majority of what my feed is showing me. I also follow groups about sister locks because that's something that I have. I follow um, art groups because I love to draw and I love art. But then also creating in real time, in real life. I read this book at the top of the year. It's called The Day God Saw Me as Black. And I love this book so much that I've been sharing it with everybody. And then finally, a friend of mine that I shared it with was like, "Oh, we need to do a book discussion." I'm like, "Say less. I'll I'll host. We're coming over. Everybody bring a dish." And so just creating just like that quickly, just an opportunity for people to come together over a shared topic, right? Even having this podcast, I think the heartbeat of this as well is building community. Here we are, three young African American women or Black women who got our PhDs and, looking for a way to express what we've learned and how we stand within our expertise and looking for a way to express it and come together with other people and our listeners, our viewers, for them to try to connect with us, in this way as well. So I know we're coming up on our time, but I wanted to throw it over to you guys. If you had anything else that you wanted to add before you give your thesis statement, but remember that's how how we'll close out this topic is to kind of add anything else that you wanted to add, then also give your thesis statement. So I'll throw it over to Dr. Montgomery.
Oh, okay. So if I was to give a closing thesis statement, I would just say, building a strong community is essential for enhancing your mental health, for fostering emotional resilience and promoting physical well-being. It provides, crucial support for crucial social support that can kind of help mitigate the negative effects of isolating, keeping yourself from being alone, and not around other people. So just getting out there and doing what you need to do and building community.
Oh. And I can go next, Mom. Oh, I'm sorry. Kwanza Falaka. Not me calling you Mom. I'm shy. Also, the term is homophily. So that's just the tendency for people to like others who are similar to themselves.
And how do you spell that? Homophily?
HOMOPHILY.
Ah, I was close. I said PHYLLIE. So I'm sorry.
Homophilia.
Yeah. I think it's what I was saying. So,
yeah. And my thesis statement, I would say that humans are built for relationships. So therefore, we're built for community. And I think it's really up to us to figure out what that means to us, because it should be a kind of unique experience. I don't think community is it's not the same for everyone. It doesn't look the same for everyone. And this is more than a thesis statement, but as the example of some people might find that online or might find that in a more larger community where they just have a couple of people, but other people might, need that to be in person or something. So just really figuring out what works for you and how you get your kind of intimacy needs fulfilled. But yeah.
That
was it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think my thesis statement, I will say that community is what you make it. Like if you can't find the community you want, create it. Nice. And that was really based on what your interests are, what you need to feel fulfilled, to ignite yourself socially, to ignite yourself emotionally, creating an environment that is, what's the word? I can feel it, but I can't say it. That is nurturing, that a safe space for you to be your whole self, mind, body, and spirit. I think that's what community is. And if you can't find it, create it. So I think that's my thesis statement. But this was such a great conversation, doctors. And I'm sure, hopefully our listeners, if you have any questions, definitely send us some of your questions. You can message us, I guess, on any of our socials. All that information will kind of be like in the tab, and I'll start posting it on our videos as well. But definitely follow us on the Doctor podcast. I'll share the link and all that stuff as well. But this is a really important topic, a really interesting topic. So, thank you guys for joining us. And Dr. Montgomery, I'm going to kick it over to you. What is our closing? I forgot how it goes. Stay something, something, something.
Yeah, it was brilliant last time. So I had, really I did want to give a call to action this time if I could.
Oh, absolutely.
That outro. So I just want to encourage all of you, our viewers, to reflect on your own sense of community, your own community, what steps you can take to strengthen your connections. Like reach out to somebody today, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or a colleague, or whomever, right? And I think if you kind of really reflect back on that and kind of everything that we talked about today and kind of reach out, I'll be interested in hearing, how you built your community. And you can kind of leave us some comments, under the video after watching, and get back to us with that. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so much. I'm just happy that we have a call to action.
And then I would just say, thank you all the viewers, just for joining us today on the Doctor. And just come back and just engage us some more. There you go.
And I was trying to find our brilliant outro.
I have it, Mama. I have it.
Go for it, Dr. Nia.
Go for it, Dr. Nia. She would be the one to have it. Let's go, Dr. Nia.
Let me find it real fast. And until next time, keep your mind sharp, your hearts open, and your souls curious. Thanks.
Love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, bye.
Bye. That's so funny.
Are you guys doctors?